their marine count is relatively low, and because they move out pretty late, uh, just because of the fact that their barracks came so late, um, it's very possible to beat his army with just a huge flank of Hydra Mira. However, on Heartbreak Ridge, you don't have the same kind of open map as, for example, on Outsider or Python. So you really cannot rely on that as much. Um, so um, so you gotta act accordingly. And lurkers and hydras and like lings, massive amount of units, a lot of lurkers. That's gonna be good against the flash build, honestly. And because he's more likely to have more tanks, it's also a bad thing to have too many hydras. And another thing, but relatively important thing about it is that you want to have a pretty quick tech, because he's making late vessels. He's not gonna have a ton, not fast anyway. So if you can actually have a pretty quick tech, but still having still fending off his first few attacks without problems, then or first one or two attacks, it depends how late he moves out. Then you're gonna have a much bigger advantage. Now in this game, I maybe made a little bit too late tech. Like I honestly thinking about it afterwards, I should have made a little bit quicker tech. I stayed a bit too long on just making a massive amount of units, and it's not such a huge mistake really, but it's still something that that is not as safe as it could be. Like, it's important that you make units so that you can finish the attacks off, but you want to have that higher tech so that you can make less mistakes and still stay in the game. Like with defilers, you could screw up half of your army and you'd still be fine because of Dark Swarm. But if you don't have that, then it might be very hard for you to manage. Now, luckily over here, he didn't disrupt my economy in any way in this game. I played it safe. He may have done a lot more damage, but this time he didn't, and that's why I'm able to have a much more units than I usually do, and I kind of feel confident about beating him. Now, this is a very important part about when fighting a Terran army, whatever time that is. You want to look for his mistakes. Like over here, this is a perfect mistake that Terran might make. He unsieges his tanks way too late, or comes too close with his tanks without sieging. That's a very typical mistake which you always gotta look out for. That's because his tanks aren't sieged. It's very safe for your lurkers to approach, and if he ever comes too close, then it's like a perfect chance for you to come over with your lurkers, move closer, and then burrow and then get a few shots. Like over here is another example. Like well, over here he once again he made a pretty stupid mistake of just not sieging his tanks. And coming too close with his units, perhaps a little bit of arrogance, I don't know, whatever it is. It paid off to pretty hugely to my advantage. Normally I wouldn't be able to expect this to work this well, and normally if I didn't have quicker tech, it could have really paid me the whole game. However, this time, because he made those mistakes, I'm able to manage with a much slower tech, but usually I would want to make a bit quicker tech, honestly. Now another thing you gotta pay attention to what a Terran does with his tanks is that you always attack when they unsiege, because if you attack or try to attack when they're on siege, it's not always possible, but you should always attempt that at least. Now, if you can attack when they're unsieged, you will get a huge advantage over him, because his tanks are gonna shoot like 2 or 3 less time each, and whatever amount of tanks he might have, let's say he has 6 tanks, each of those tanks is gonna shoot like 2 less times, and that's like 12 shots which the tanks didn't make. And like over here, if his tanks were already sieged, I would not have approached. I would have backed off and forced him to, since he has to keep pushing, he has to stop me from expanding and somehow do something to me, because he doesn't want a Zerg to just be able to have perfect economy, get his tech up, get his hive, whatnot. He doesn't want that, so he needs to keep pushing. And in case he had sieged his tanks over there, I would have just not attacked. Like, I see, okay, his tanks are sieged, I'm gonna back off. And once I feel that he's now approaching, or I know that he's approaching with his tanks, and his tanks are unsieged, that's when I attack, and that's when I'm gonna get much more shots at his army. Like, the biggest mistake you can do is chase his marine and medic army where his tanks are already sieged, and that's something you pretty much never want to do. You almost always want to wait for his tanks to unsiege and then attack. Now, I could have taken my fourth gas a bit quicker, honestly. That's another mistake. Like, this should have been quicker, and because I had like the whole I've had the whole control of the game after the first attack, so I really had the opportunity to take that much quicker, and I should have done it. In any case, now since I've beaten his army pretty much twice, I feel pretty confident about going to attack, adding some pressure, whatnot. However, this is another typical mistake you might make, like ignore the fact that you lost to almost all of your lurkers, or think that your Ling army is gonna be enough to beat his marine and medic army, because it's not. It's most likely not. So don't make that mistake. If your lurkers are way far behind or something, just stop the attack halfway and don't force an attack that is probably not gonna work. I'm also starting my defiler mode now. Like, defilers, there's a safe way to go. Of course, if you have 4 gases and total map control, and total army advantage, then yes, you can go ultra straight away. But defilers are still by far the more safe way to go. They're like, you can screw up and your defilers might save you. But with ultras, if you don't have big enough advantage when you start making ultras, your whole game could end just over there. And this happens even to more experienced Zergs. For example, on the most recent Idra versus Call, I think Call went straight to ultras with his on Heartbreak Ridge, and that kind of cost him the game, because like, in my opinion, he didn't have good enough advantage, or stopped pressuring way too early, and that cost him the game. Now my lurkers have +1 upgrades, because I also upgraded my Hydras before. I made like Hydra lurker army, so I made a +1 missile upgrade, and those lurkers made my units so much. It made my lurkers so much stronger. Now over here, pay attention. I saw a scan over there, so that's very often a sign that he wants to drop, because he wants to know how many Sake colonies, how many lurkers I have burrowed. So he most likely scanned so that he knows whether to drop or not. Like over there, I suppose it's also possible that he just wants to figure out if I have even expanded, because he's kind of losing, and if I haven't expanded, then he might still be fine. But if I have expanded, it's gonna be bad for him. So I'm not sure which one it was, but this time it seemed like he didn't want to drop. But they usually want to drop, and you gotta prepare for that in case they try. That's why I brought 2 scourges over there. Like, I don't want to overkill with defense if I feel like he wants to drop there or something, but I brought some scourges over just in case he tries to drop, and so that I have a better chance of stopping the drop halfway through, and my expansion has a bigger chance of surviving. Like, at this point I have such a huge army advantage that I don't even need to wait for defilers or ultras. I can just pretty much go and slaughter his army. Like, even if all my units died over there, I already have defilers, I have so much money, like I'd probably still win. So at this point I can kind of get careless, though I don't recommend this kind of behavior, honestly. It's cost me a lot of games when I've played like this, and then the Terran with this Imba Marine and Medic army could just counterattack, and that's about it.